Before we talk about the ways narcissists lash out, we need to pause and reconsider what lashing out actually looks like. It is not always explosive. It is not always cruel in ways that are easy to name. Often it arrives quietly, wrapped in silence, charm, or confusion. You may feel unsettled long before you can explain why. Something shifts in the emotional air, and suddenly you are questioning yourself more than the relationship. In these dynamics, harm rarely comes from a single moment. It accumulates through patterns, through what is withheld rather than what is said, through reactions that feel disproportionate, disorienting, or strangely timed. The pain is not just in the behavior itself, but in how it pulls you away from your own inner clarity. You start monitoring yourself, translating moods, anticipating reactions, trying to stay emotionally safe in a space that no longer feels secure. This is why understanding how narcissists lash out matters. Not to pathologize, not to dramatize, but to restore language to experiences that are often felt but not named. Because when you can recognize the pattern, you stop personalizing the damage. And when you stop personalizing it, you begin the slow return to yourself. Emotional withdrawal is one of the most deceptive ways a narcissist lashes out because it does not look like aggression on the surface. There are no raised voices or obvious insults. Instead, there is a sudden cooling of the emotional atmosphere. The warmth that once existed quietly disappears. Conversations become brief, mechanical, or absent altogether. Eye contact fades, affection is withheld, and responsiveness drops just enough to make you feel the loss without being able to clearly point to what changed. This is not accidental distance. It is intentional silence designed to destabilize you. What makes emotional withdrawal so powerful is that it triggers deep relational anxiety. Humans are wired to seek connection, and when connection is abruptly removed, the nervous system goes into alarm. You begin replaying conversations, searching for mistakes, wondering what you did wrong. The narcissist does not need to explain anything because your confusion is the outcome they are seeking. The more you question yourself, the more power they regain. Their silence creates an imbalance where you are emotionally exposed while they remain protected. This form of lashing out often follows a moment where the narcissist feels challenged, ignored, or insufficiently admired. A boundary, a disagreement, or even your independence can feel threatening to their sense of control. Instead of engaging directly, they retreat. By doing so, they shift the emotional labor onto you. You become the one trying to fix, repair, and reconnect while they sit in emotional absence, reinforcing the idea that access to them is conditional. Over time, emotional withdrawal teaches you to self-abandon. You learn to monitor your tone, your needs, your emotions, hoping to avoid triggering the silence again. You may suppress your feelings or minimize your desires just to keep the connection alive. This creates a dynamic where love feels fragile and contingent rather than mutual and secure. The narcissist benefits from this imbalance because your anxiety feeds their sense of importance. What is particularly damaging is how invisible this behavior can be to outsiders. From the outside, nothing appears wrong. There are no obvious conflicts to point to. This isolation deepens your self-doubt, making it harder to trust your own emotional experience. You may even feel guilty for being hurt by something that looks so subtle. Emotional withdrawal is not about needing space or healthy self-regulation. Healthy distance comes with communication and reassurance. Narcissistic withdrawal comes with ambiguity and punishment. It is a way of saying, without words, that connection will be removed if you step out of line. And because it attacks your sense of belonging rather than your intellect, it leaves a deep emotional imprint that lingers long after the silence itself ends. Gaslighting is a psychological lashing out that does not bruise the skin but fractures the mind. It works by quietly eroding your confidence in your own perceptions, emotions, and memories. At first, it sounds harmless. You are told you are too sensitive, that you misunderstood, that you are imagining things. These statements are delivered with calm certainty, which makes you question yourself rather than them. Over time, this steady drip of doubt begins to replace your inner authority with their version of reality. What makes gaslighting so destabilizing is its intimacy. The narcissist positions themselves as the reliable narrator of events. They speak with conviction, dismissing your emotional experience as flawed or irrational. When you express hurt, they redirect the conversation to your reaction rather than their behavior. The focus shifts from what happened to whether you are allowed to feel the way you do. Slowly, the truth becomes negotiable, and your feelings become evidence against you. Gaslighting often intensifies when you start noticing inconsistencies or asserting boundaries. Instead of addressing the concern, the narcissist reframes it as a personal failing on your part. They may deny saying things they clearly said, accuse you of remembering incorrectly, or insist that your interpretation is distorted. This repetition creates cognitive exhaustion. Arguing with someone who refuses to acknowledge reality drains your mental energy until surrender feels easier than resistance. As the pattern continues, you may start documenting conversations, replaying events in your head, or seeking external validation just to feel grounded. Yet even this can be turned against you. The narcissist may mock you for overthinking or portray your need for clarity as instability. The result is a growing sense of inner confusion. You are no longer sure which version of reality to trust, and that uncertainty makes you increasingly dependent on them for confirmation. The emotional impact of gaslighting extends far beyond the relationship. It trains you to second-guess your intuition in other areas of life. Decision-making becomes difficult, confidence erodes. You may feel anxious expressing opinions or emotions, fearing they will be dismissed or twisted. The narcissist's power lies in this internalized doubt. When you do not trust yourself, you are easier to control. Gaslighting is not a misunderstanding or poor communication. It is a deliberate strategy to maintain dominance while avoiding accountability. By destabilizing your inner compass, the narcissist ensures that they remain the authority in the relationship. The greatest harm is not the lies themselves, but the way they disconnect you from your own knowing, leaving you unsure of your reality and dependent on someone who benefits from that uncertainty. This form of lashing out is particularly disorienting because it operates on two opposite stages at once. In public, the narcissist performs warmth, generosity, humor, and competence. They appear attentive, supportive, even admirable. People see them as charming and emotionally intelligent, someone who would never intentionally harm another person. This public persona is carefully curated, not only to gain admiration, but to build credibility. It becomes a protective shield that makes their private behavior nearly impossible to challenge. Behind closed doors, the tone shifts. The same person who was gracious in front of others becomes dismissive, critical, or quietly cruel. Your feelings are minimized, your words are twisted, your vulnerabilities are used against you. There may be subtle insults disguised as jokes, sighs of irritation when you speak, or a constant sense that you are disappointing them. The cruelty is rarely obvious enough to quote. It lives in tone, timing, and omission, which makes it difficult to explain to anyone else. The psychological damage comes from the contrast. When someone is loving in private but harsh in public, you may at least feel validated in your pain. Here, it is reversed. The world sees the best version of them while you receive the worst. When you try to describe what is happening, you are often met with confusion or disbelief. People say you are lucky, that they seem wonderful, that you must be misunderstanding them. This response isolates you further and deepens your self. You downplay your pain. You avoid bringing up issues in public because you know you will be subtly contradicted or made to look unreasonable. The relationship becomes a performance where you must maintain harmony at the cost of your authenticity. Your emotional reality is sacrificed to preserve their reputation. This way of lashing out is not about love or connection. It is about control through contrast. By being admired publicly and oppressive privately, the narcissist ensures that you doubt yourself rather than them. The cruelty does not need to be loud because it is reinforced by the world's applause, leaving you questioning your experience while they remain safely untouchable in the eyes of others. Projection is a subtle but deeply damaging way a narcissist lashes out because it reverses emotional responsibility and leaves you carrying feelings that are not yours. It begins when they encounter an inner experience they cannot tolerate, such as shame, envy, insecurity, or dishonesty. Instead of recognizing it within themselves, they externalize it and place it onto you. Suddenly, you are accused of the very behaviors they are enacting. Their lack of empathy becomes your coldness. Their manipulation becomes your supposed deceit. Their irresponsibility becomes your failure. This reversal is profoundly confusing because it arrives with certainty. The accusations are delivered as facts, not questions. You are not invited into a conversation, you are placed on trial. Because the claims often feel unfair or inaccurate, your instinct is to defend yourself. And in defending yourself, you shift attention away from what they are doing and onto whether you are doing something wrong. That redirection is the power of projection. Over time, projection creates a distorted emotional mirror. You begin examining yourself for flaws that were never yours to begin with. You may start apologizing for things you did not do, or modifying your behavior to avoid accusations that seem to come out of nowhere. The narcissist rarely reflects or self-examines during these moments. Instead, they feel relieved. By unloading their internal discomfort onto you, they restore their sense of superiority and emotional cleanliness. Projection also serves as a form of attack on your identity. When someone repeatedly tells you that you are selfish, untrustworthy, or emotionally unstable, those labels can begin to stick, especially if you are already trying to be empathetic or fair. You may internalize their narrative, wondering if there is something about you that invites these reactions. This self-doubt keeps you emotionally occupied and less able to see the manipulation clearly. What makes projection especially harmful is that it often escalates when you try to set boundaries or express hurt. Instead of hearing your experience, they accuse you of being controlling, dramatic, or abusive. The language of accountability is turned against you. Your attempt at clarity becomes proof of their accusation. This leaves you feeling silenced and invalidated, unsure how to speak without being attacked. Projection is not a misunderstanding or emotional clumsiness. It is a defensive maneuver designed to protect a fragile self-image at your expense. By assigning their disowned traits to you, the narcissist avoids self awareness while positioning themselves as morally or emotionally superior. The lasting impact is not just confusion, but a gradual erosion of your trust in your own character, as you are taught to carry burdens that never belonged to you in the first place. Withholding validation is a quiet but powerful way a narcissist lashes out because it targets your need to be seen and affirmed. They are often very perceptive about what matters to you, what makes you feel valued, and when you most need encouragement. That awareness is not always used to nurture connection. Instead, it becomes a tool. When you reach a milestone, share something meaningful, or express vulnerability, the response is muted, dismissive, or absent. Praise is replaced with silence. Empathy is replaced with indifference. This absence is not random. Validation is usually withheld at moments when acknowledgement would strengthen your confidence or autonomy. When you succeed, they change the subject. When you struggle, they minimize your pain. When you seek reassurance, they appear distracted or emotionally unavailable. The message beneath the behavior is subtle but clear. Your inner world does not deserve attention unless it serves them. Over time, this creates a relational environment where emotional nourishment feels scarce and conditional. The psychological impact of withheld validation is cumulative. Each missed moment may seem small, but together they teach you to doubt your worth. You may start questioning whether your achievements matter, whether your feelings are reasonable, whether you are asking for too much. The narcissist does not need to criticize you openly. The lack of response does the work for them. Silence becomes a verdict. As this pattern continues, you may find yourself working harder for recognition. You explain more, you give more, you shrink your needs in the hope that they will finally offer approval. This effort reinforces the power imbalance. The narcissist remains the gatekeeper of validation while you orbit around their attention. Your sense of self becomes increasingly dependent on how they respond rather than on your own internal grounding. What makes this form of lashing out particularly painful is its deniability. If you confront them, they may insist they did nothing wrong. They may claim you are too needy or sensitive. Because there is no overt cruelty, your pain feels difficult to justify even to yourself. You may feel embarrassed for wanting something as basic as acknowledgement, further silencing your needs. Withholding validation is not emotional neutrality or introversion. Healthy relationships allow for mutual recognition, even during conflict. This behavior is a way of maintaining superiority by keeping you emotionally hungry. By refusing to affirm you, the narcissist ensures that you stay focused on earning their approval instead of trusting your own value. Over time, this deprivation erodes not just your confidence, but your ability to feel secure in your own accomplishments and emotions, leaving you constantly reaching outward for what should have been nurtured within. Withholding validation is one of the most insidious forms of lashing out because it attacks your sense of worth without ever appearing openly hostile. It begins subtly. You share good news and the response is flat or delayed. You express pain and it is met with distraction or dismissal. You reach out emotionally and are met with neutrality that feels colder than anger. What makes this so destabilizing is that the narcissist often knows exactly when validation matters most to you, and that is precisely when it disappears. This absence creates an emotional vacuum. Humans regulate their sense of self through connection, especially in intimate relationships. When acknowledgement is consistently withheld, your nervous system starts interpreting it as rejection. You begin scanning your behavior, wondering what you did wrong, what you should change, or how you might become more deserving of attention. The narcissist does not need to say you are unimportant. Their silence delivers that message repeatedly. Over time, this dynamic trains you to suppress yourself. You may stop sharing accomplishments to avoid disappointment. You may minimize your struggles because they are never met with care. Slowly, you reduce your emotional presence in the relationship. The narcissist benefits from this shrinkage. When you require less emotional engagement, they are relieved of the responsibility to show up while still maintaining control. Withholding validation also reinforces dependency. Because affirmation is rare, it becomes incredibly powerful when it does appear. A small compliment feels enormous. A brief moment of recognition feels like proof that the relationship is working. This intermittent reinforcement keeps you emotionally invested, hoping the warmth will return if you just try harder. The scarcity makes validation feel earned rather than mutual. What deepens the harm is the way this behavior is often reframed. If you ask for reassurance, you may be labeled needy or insecure. If you express hurt, you may be told you are overreacting. This shifts the focus from their emotional absence to your emotional needs, turning a lack of care into a flaw within you. You begin questioning whether your desire to be seen is reasonable at all. This form of lashing out is especially painful because it denies something fundamental. Validation is not praise-seeking or ego-stroking. It is the basic recognition of another person's inner life. By withholding it, the narcissist maintains emotional dominance while avoiding overt conflict. The long-term effect is an erosion of self-trust. When your feelings and achievements go consistently unacknowledged, you start looking outside yourself for confirmation that you exist, that you matter, and that your experience is real. Triangulation is a way a narcissist lashes out that creates instability by inserting a third presence into the relationship. Whether that presence is real, exaggerated, or entirely imagined. It may begin casually with comparisons that seem harmless. A colleague who understands them better, an ex who never caused problems, a friend who always agrees with them. These references are not about sharing experiences. They are about shifting the emotional balance so that you feel uncertain about your place and value. What makes triangulation so destabilizing is that it quietly transforms connection into competition. Instead of feeling chosen and secure, you feel measured against someone else. You begin wondering what you lack, what they have, and how you might need to change to stay relevant. The narcissist benefits from this tension. Your attention turns toward proving yourself rather than questioning the dynamic itself. Triangulation often intensifies when you assert needs or boundaries. Rather than engaging directly, the narcissist invokes another person as a comparison point. They may say others are more easygoing, more appreciative, or less demanding. This tactic invalidates your experience while implying that you are replaceable. The fear of being displaced keeps you emotionally compliant. Over time, this pattern erodes trust. You may feel hesitant to speak openly, unsure of what is shared about you with others or how your words will be reframed. The relationship no longer feels like a safe container. It becomes a stage where you are constantly being evaluated. Emotional intimacy gives way to self-monitoring, and authenticity becomes risky. Triangulation also allows the narcissist to avoid accountability. If conflict arises, they redirect responsibility outward. They may align with a third party